Hello, I'm Manuel Rodriguez with the HISD Board of Education. Join me on Faces and Places as we explain the new teacher appraisal system. You'll hear how HISD teachers are getting the feedback and support they need to help our students succeed. Then we'll visit with the folks from the new HISD DeVry Advantage Academy, a college preparatory school for those interested in web graphic design. Then we'll introduce you to the newest culinary delights in the HISD cafeterias. All this next on Faces and Places. Hello, I'm Manuel Rodriguez, Vice President of the HISD Board of Education, and welcome to Faces and Places. I'm so glad you joined us. This is an exciting time to be part of Team HISD. The district is known across the country as an innovative and bold leader in education reform, particularly in the area of recruiting, developing, and supporting our teachers. We know there must be an effective teacher in every classroom. And why? Simply put, it's because that's what our children must have to graduate from high school and be ready for college or to pursue a career. That's why this school year we are implementing a new teacher appraisal system that will give teachers the feedback and tools they need to help our kids. Joining me today to talk about this new teacher appraisal system is Chief Human Resource Officer Ann Best. And for years, teachers have told us that the appraisal system that the districts have had and here in HISD for evaluation were just no good anymore. They wanted something new. Can you tell us about this new teacher appraisal system?
Sure. I think you're right. Teachers have complained that the system that we had in place was just inadequate to provide them the type of feedback that was usable. They wanted something tangible such that if I get this feedback, I know what to do when I go in my classroom the next day to make things better for my students. And that's what I believe this system really does. It's much clearer. It gives teachers a roadmap for what we believe is excellent teaching in HISD in the form of the instructional practice rubric. Gives them many more opportunities to engage with their appraisers about what they're seeing and to provide their own feedback and perspective on what's happening in their classroom, and it just gives them an opportunity to be active as a part of their appraisal process.
Right. The old system, I understand that they were observed once in the whole year, and the evaluation wasn't done till the end of the year.
That's right.
And so in comparison to this new system, you say they have multiple opportunities for to be observed, and then they have also the opportunity to feedback or get some feedback, and also have some discussion with the evaluator, right?
That's right. In the old system, it was just at the end of the year, and it wasn't even for every teacher. We had a significant number of our teachers who were on the modified version of the appraisal system, and they didn't get observed or have a conversation at all. Now with this new system, it's all teachers involved in the system. It's 4 observations for the year, 2 10-minute and 2 30-minute, as well as 3 conferences throughout the year where we can talk about what are the goals I have for this year at the beginning of the year. What sort of progress am I making toward those goals mid-year? And then that summative conference at the end of the year that says what were we able to accomplish together for our kids.
And as I understand this new appraisal system, when it was being planned and developed, it had the input of teachers and principals and community people, right?
I think that's what makes us so proud of this system, is it wasn't just folks in the central office coming up with an idea about how to appraise teachers. This was a grassroots, almost year-long process of gathering information from teachers, principals, community members in the form of surveys, focus groups, structured meetings, going back and taking that information from them, synthesizing it, and putting it together in the form of a tool that we think really represents the voices of all of our constituents and that our teachers and principals can feel proud of because they really helped design it.
Now, how do we, you said a few minutes ago that sometimes the teachers weren't even observed.
That's right.
So if you were friends with the evaluator and you said, hey, I don't want to be evaluated this year, you might have been passed over. But this year, everybody gets observed.
Right.
And how do we separate that friendship if the evaluator is within the school and you may have a friendship relation? How do we keep that separate?
I think that the instructional practice rubric really does give us the opportunity to be objective. It has a clear indicator or criteria for every sort of behavior or aspect of excellent teaching. This gives us the ability to have a really authentic conversation about what good teaching looks like, and it's not just my opinion, it's not just because I like you a lot. I've actually got to identify evidence that within this very specific criteria, you're doing it to a certain level of proficiency. How do you capitalize on it, or how do you get better? So I think that's one piece, is just that we've got sort of a roadmap for what excellent teaching looks like. I think the second piece is that appraisers get to be in the classroom often. I get to validate my opinions about you by seeing what you're doing in the classroom really often and having a conversation about it. But ultimately, and we're in a sort of a multi-phase rollout of the system is going to be inclusive of student outcomes. So at the end of the day, it's not going to matter how much I love you, it's going to matter what your kids did this year.
And I know that we've raised our standards on teacher expectations, what we expect of our teachers.
Yes, sir.
So when we are going through the first or second observation and we see that we're not making the mark, what is available to the teachers in order to get that expectation up?
Great question, and it is truly why we call this an appraisal and development system. This is not just about holding teachers accountable to a standard, it's about providing them the opportunity to get better at their craft. So one of the things that we did is a major reorganization in professional development. We now have supporters of teachers in the forms of teacher development specialists. They're assigned to those teachers by content area, and they're in schools providing teachers with individualized professional development, connecting them to other great teachers, doing small group professional development on their campus. So that's one way that teachers can get better at things that they've identified or their appraiser has identified. Additionally, professional development as we speak is designing online coursework and face-to-face coursework aligned to the instructional practice rubric, such that if your principal says you need to work on differentiation, teachers can get right online and identify what are the courses that are available in differentiation that I can quickly ramp up my learning curve and do better with my students.
So these teacher specialists, are they assigned at the beginning of the year or until there's a noted deficiency in the teaching process of the teachers?
They're assigned right at the beginning of the year. Teacher development specialists are certainly there to help teachers develop and grow, but they're also there as connectors. So teacher development specialists immediately at the start of the school year needed to be identifying who are the fantastic teachers in our district who are doing incredibly in the criteria on the instructional practice rubric, so that those people can be leveraged, they can be connected to people who need growth and development in those areas. So they've been out in schools even before the beginning of the year, connecting with the principal, getting to know and understand their teachers, and the feedback that we're hearing is fantastic on how people feel about their TDSs.
You know, I know that we have fantastic teachers, and then we have great teachers, and we have very good teachers, and then we have good teachers. Now, this evaluation system wasn't made to terminate teachers after the first year based on what data was gathered. It was developed to give them the feedback in order to grow and become the teachers we want them to become. So how does that work? After a year's evaluation, what happens? So
after a year's evaluation, and I think the great thing about the process of this system is we synthesize that data and feed back into the cycle in the form of a goal-setting process for the next year. We have a summative conference where we see what happened this year, what did we do well, what did we not do well, how did our students perform, so that we can have informed, prioritized goals for the next year for that teacher. So again, this system is not just about appraisal, it's about development. This is not an I gotcha tool for teachers. This is about, to your point, helping our teachers be the absolute best that they can be, because we know that when teachers are at the top of their game, that students are performing at high levels.
Okay, so this is the downer question, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
After 2 years of minimal growth or deficient, what can teachers expect?
I think teachers can expect some real conversations about what this means for them and their work in teaching. We want to give people the opportunity to learn, to develop, and grow, but we are always going to put our students first. And if we have a teacher who, despite his or her best efforts, is not able to make the progress we think is necessary in order to see the type of outcomes and gains that we know our students need to achieve in order to be college and career ready, our appraisers and our principals have to be prepared to have difficult conversations about what that means for this person and ultimately for the kids on their campus.
Okay, we have teacher specialists and we have appraisers. What are we doing to ensure that these people that are evaluating our teachers
Yes.
and helping them progress are doing the best job possible?
That's a great question. We recognize that even though we did some pretty extensive training this summer, and if you talk to anybody who appraises teachers, they've been in some training this summer around this new system. But we know that's just the beginning of the road. We actually plan to work with appraisers and our teacher development specialists who are not appraisers all year long to do a couple of things. One is to ensure that they're using the system with fidelity, but two is also this idea of Interrater reliability. When you look at a teacher and I look at a teacher, we should be drawing the same conclusions. You shouldn't think that they're terrible and I think that they're great in a specific area. We should be able to see a body of work, a teacher's practice, and draw the same conclusions based on what we know and understand about our instructional practice rubric. So that's the work of the year, helping principals and appraisers really deeply understand each of the criteria areas on the instructional practice rubric and start to really understand how it applies to a teacher's practice. So again,
you bring up a good point that
Sure.
you know you see it one way and I see it another.
That's right.
What are we doing? Does a teacher have the same evaluator in all 4 or 6 sessions?
Yes, yes. So this is really about, we want to make sure that if at your school and my school, we've got a group of teachers, that they each have a fair chance of, a chance of being evaluated fairly. So it means that across the district, I don't want to see that at your school you're giving, you know, all 1s and 2s on the instructional practice rubric, which are our lowest scores, and I'm over here with the same type of teaching giving all 3s and 4s, because that's not fair to your teachers. So this is really about ensuring that we develop both a common language and a common understanding of what effective teaching looks like in our district so that teachers can be fairly evaluated and appraised.
Well, you know, this is just fantastic to hear that the evaluation of teachers is now broad enough to where they even have the opportunity to do some feedback of their own as to why maybe the student was performing that day
Right.
to the expectations. And I know we're looking forward to a great year. And so I want to thank you for joining us today on Faces and Places and you know, just giving us an explanation of what this teacher evaluation really looks like.
It's been my pleasure.